Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. Unfortunately, the Kings lose tonight 113-114 to the Dallas Mavericks. De'Aaron Fox scores 44 points tonight, but Kings lose. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to smash that like button down below. And if you would like to join the Royal family with Calvin and I, make sure you hit that subscribe button before the shot clock expires.
Yeah, tough pill to swallow tonight, Kings fans, or today, I guess. Man, De'Aaron Fox gave it everything he's got. Unfortunately, the Kings didn't have anything else to give, right? Yeah. Late game execution, pretty bad too. We'll talk about that as well.
Yep. If you're listening via your favorite podcast platform, we would appreciate a 5-star rating. And if you would like to be a part of the show, you can always join us live after every single game here on YouTube. We'll be right back with your Kings Nightcap. We're here, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. Oh, no draft beer tonight, Calvin. We got cans. We got Pacifico, courtesy of Fred Dixon. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Shout out to Fred. So as I said there, unfortunately, the Kings lose tonight in a nail-biter. It's a rough game, Calvin. You know, the Kings started out really hot. I actually didn't know that this game started so early. I missed the entire first quarter, and I look at my phone, and I'm like, oh, Kings are up. I got to watch this game. I thought I was going to get some yard work done today. Unfortunately, I did not, but I tuned into the Kings game, and the Kings were up, big in this game, and unfortunately end up losing to the Mavericks late with a buzzer beater 3.
Yeah. I mean, obviously losing or giving away a 19-point lead is bad, but that's who the Kings have been all season long. That's not really the surprise to me here, if there is a surprise. To me, it was just the execution, both offensively and defensively, late in the game. You know, these last maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 possessions. You get, thank you again, Fred. Appreciate you, man. You get a couple of really bad threes by Dante DiVincenzo, and I mean really bad. One of them, the shot clock is running down on him, but he still has enough time to find Justin Holiday open in the corner, and he chooses not to, puts up his second air ball in a row.
And he was like 6 feet behind the line when he shot that.
It was deep. Both of those were deep, very deep threes. It's just more of the same, right, that we've talked about with this team all year long. I mean, De'Aaron Fox deserves all the praise in the world for his performance tonight, both on offense and defense. He really worked hard defensively in that second half, especially. But that's the problem when De'Aaron Fox is your best player and he's having a great game, is that it's him. It's as many times as he can get to the basket. If he makes or converts on most of those shots, great. But he doesn't always convert. He doesn't always get to the free throw line. And there's no other movement, whether it's cutters or ball movement from the rest of the team. It's just a very, very playground isolation style game. And De'Aaron Fox is a very talented player, but the Kings are not a good enough team to play that way. They need movement with the ball, cutters, all that stuff. They need everybody to be involved. They need to get Sabonis some better looks too. I mean, the guy is not taking enough shots, in my opinion. I don't think that they're working hard enough to get him the ball in the right position either. Yeah, he's getting doubled really early, but there's ways that you can work around that. And then defensively, Davion Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox were really good tonight on the ball. Nobody else was, though. That second half, the Mavericks made a great adjustment. Their plan was to attack really early in the shot clock. They got to the free throw line a ton of times. I think 12 free throw attempts in that third quarter, which matches their free throw attempts for the entire first half. And then they hit their open threes when they had to knock them down as well. You know, give credit to Spencer Dinwiddie. He hit some really tough shots down the stretch.
Yeah, that dude had a game. And I don't know if we mentioned it already, but Luka Doncic sat in this game due to a toe injury. He was a late scratch. De'Aaron Fox really did it all. Unfortunately, he does miss that free throw towards the end of the game, which was huge. I don't want to put the blame on him because he did more than enough to win this game for the Kings. But stuff like that happens, and then the wide open three, Justin Holiday. I don't know why he collapsed inside. There was already two guys doubling.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. I was actually just having this conversation with Ethan while we were watching this play, and he said the same thing. What is Justin Holiday doing on that?
Yeah,
I get it. What it looks like to us watching, it's a bad play, right? But anybody who's played basketball knows this. You're taught from the time you're in third grade, if you're that corner wing help defender, when somebody gets beat off the drive, you have to sag in. It's a natural reaction. Guys do it without even thinking about it. I mean, that's just – it was actually a phenomenal play designed by Jason Kidd. They run the fake pick and roll with Dinwiddie and Brunson. You get everybody else spread out, so the middle of the lane is wide open. There's nobody inside to help. And Jalen Brunson gets to his strong hand, his left hand. He gets by Davion Mitchell, and that was the play right there. I mean, he either gets to the basket and gets a look there, or it's not just Dorian Finney-Smith. All the defense is going to collapse on that, right? Because they're all spread out, and somebody gets beat off the drive. So he would have had a kick-out three in either corner. It was a really, really well-designed play.
Yeah, it's rough to give up that corner three, especially because that's the easiest three in the game, and
it is. You can say like, yeah, De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell were there, but again, anybody who's played basketball knows this. That's a total instinct move. It's what you're taught. You're two passes away, so you need to be in help defense. And it's not like they were up by 3, right? So giving up a 2 still loses you the lead. So, you can't say, well, there's no way you could have given up a 3 there. That's the only shot they needed. That's not true. They could have had an easy layup to get the lead as well. So.
That's true. And that all comes down to missing that free throw, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Well, I want to give a shout out to everybody here in the chat. Shout out to Fred. Thank you, Fred, for the super chat. We appreciate it. What's up, Gothan? Sass. Let's see who else is over here. Look over there. Elaine, welcome. Central Valley King. Welcome, guys. I see Mike in here, too. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It was another tough game of basketball for the Sacramento Kings. And, dude, they just keep crushing my heart, man. Like, I would have been happier to see them get blown out by 20 in this game. But I'm like, Luka Doncic isn't playing. Maybe they have a chance here. They started out so hot in this game.
They did.
They're up by 19, like you said, at one point, and I'm just like, here we go. They're making a run for the play-in.
That's the difference between good teams and bad teams, though, right? Like everybody, Alvin Gentry's been a very hot topic of conversation over the past few weeks. Really, ever since the trade deadline, because now the Kings roster is better, so the reason they're not performing is on the coaching staff, right? Well, when you have a really good team like the Mavericks, they make adjustments at halftime, both offensively and defensively. Their small ball lineup absolutely killed the Kings.
Yep.
I mean, Sabonis, he does what he can on the perimeter, but he is not a good perimeter defender, especially trying to guard wings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Dorian Finney-Smith is going to blow by him every single time. And in the third quarter, that was the difference. They just got to the basket at will. Nobody could stop them.
Yep. Yeah, so it was a good opportunity for the Kings to make up some ground. The Spurs lost today. The Trailblazers lost today. But the Lakers were able to defeat the Warriors, which is crazy. LeBron James, 56 points, 10 rebounds. Huge game for LeBron. I don't think he's trying to miss the playoffs, Calvin.
No. LeBron and missing the playoffs, that's, hell freezes over before that happens.
Yeah, he's not looking for a draft pick. What's up, Bryce? What's up, Charlie? I see you guys here. Welcome. All right, Calvin, I want to go over your keys to the game, and then we'll dive into the box score. Is that cool?
Sure. Keys to the game. Number one was outside shooting tonight. The Mavericks are a really good defensive team, and they're really good at guarding the three. The Kings, for the most part, had a pretty good game overall. I mean, down the stretch, they missed some big ones, missed the whole rim. But 9 of 25 overall, 36%. I mean, you take that on most nights, especially against a team that's as good guarding the three as Dallas is. Number two was the turnover battle. They did not win this one. 16 total turnovers for the Kings, 10 for the Mavericks, some really costly ones there towards the end. And there were also some very near turnovers that didn't happen that could have been really, really bad. I mean, that one De'Aaron Fox play on the top of the key is the one that stands out to me. They really dodged the bullet there. In fact, they even end up getting a foul, I think.
And he had no turnovers at that point.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And then my third key was fast break points and transition points, which the Kings did a good job of in the first half. But in that second half, the defense tightens up. They only end up with 7 fast break points for the whole game. So, I mean, overall, though, you look at the team stats, the Kings did everything they needed to do to win this game. They had 66 points in the paint to just 44 for Dallas, and almost all of those, it felt like, were in the second half. They out-rebounded Dallas. The shooting percentages are basically equal. The free throws hurt, 12 of 18, especially those missed free throws down the stretch. But this was a game that the Kings not just played well enough to win. They absolutely had this game up until about midway through the third quarter. And then
I think they had this game until 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, or maybe a minute left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Dallas doesn't take their first lead until I think it's 95-94.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But, it's just late game execution, right? I mean, when you're a bad team and you lose a lot, you're not in these situations frequently. Mm-hmm. And, some people might say, well, you have De'Aaron Fox and he's on a roll, so it should be simple, right? Just give him the ball and get out of the way. But as I mentioned before, that hurts the Kings as a team, I think, overall. They're not a good enough team to overcome stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not. And as I mentioned, De'Aaron Fox ties his career high, 44 points tonight. We needed just a couple more from him, Calvin. Just a couple more.
A couple more from anybody.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, let's take a look here at the box score. And then I want to talk about HB because I don't want to say I have issues with HB, but I would have liked to see a little bit more out of him offensively tonight.
Sure. Well, we'll start right there. Harrison Barnes and Justin Holiday are the low men in the starting lineup, 9 points apiece. Holiday, another rough shooting night, 4 of 12, 1 of 7 from 3. HB, 3 of 8, 1 of 3 from 3. Sabonis, again, you can just pencil these numbers in every night. 15, 10, and 6. 11 points for Trey Lyles on 5 of 8 shooting. And De'Aaron Fox, the star of the night, or day, I keep saying night. 18 of 31 from the field for 44 points to go along with 6 assists and a couple of rebounds. And then the bench, the bench continues to struggle overall. DiVincenzo with 10 points, but he was just 3 of 10 from the floor.
Yeah. Which is a bummer because I really like him a lot.
Rashawn Holmes is back, though.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes did return tonight. He had a great rebound towards the end of the game. Didn't help them very much, but it was great in the moment. But on the topic of DiVincenzo, it's such a bummer because I really like this guy a lot. It's the shots sometimes. But, I mean, you look in here at the box score, he's still 50% from three-point range.
Yeah, that is true. It's the rebounds, the guy, I'm with you. It really is tough because I like his style of play. I mean, he's a very aggressive, good defender. But the shot selection just is not quite there for me yet. He hasn't hit that shot regularly enough for me to give him the green light to shoot it in those situations. Yeah,
and it's like, well, you have an ankle injury that you're healing from, and so your shot's supposed to get better, but a lot of these shots, like you said, are just bad shots, right? Like, if you made them, you'd be like, okay, I'll give you that, but they're really not that great at shots, and that has nothing to do with your ankle at all.
Well, no, shot selection definitely does not. And Yeah, it's just the frequency of them, right? Like if it was just one or two a game, I mean, if he just takes that one deep one as the shot clock is expiring, you know, even though Justin Holiday is open in the corner, I'm still okay with that one in the moment with the shot clock winding down. But it's the shots like the one he gets off of that loose ball that almost ends up in a turnover. You get the ball back. Instead of just resetting it, let's get everybody grouped together. It's in the fourth quarter.
Up real quick here.
He takes a 27-footer for no reason. Like, yeah, that one was tough, really tough to swallow.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, as far as like him and Buddy Hield, because I've heard him compared to Buddy Hield just based on shot selection and stuff like that. He far outweighs it with the defense and the energy.
Buddy Hield is in a class of his own when it comes to shot selection. I just want to say that. I mean, I think some of the comparisons are valid when you're talking about DiVincenzo and Buddy Hield. But yeah, let's not forget what a Buddy Hield game looks like.
Jeff said, "Who's better their rookie season, Davion Mitchell or Isaiah Thomas?" I'm guessing he's talking about Sacramento Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, Pistons Isaiah Thomas was like nearly an all-NBA player his rookie season, I think. So that's tough. I would have to go back and look at what Isaiah Thomas did over the course of his rookie season. I really don't remember it that much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and he was nowhere near the defensive presence that Davion Mitchell was. And we've seen Davion Mitchell have some great shooting games this season. We've seen him have some bad shooting games, but the defense is always consistent for him.
Absolutely.
So
and that's why he's so valuable to this team, because you don't have anybody. We just talked for a long time about how the thing that killed the Kings tonight was straight line drives to the basket.
Yeah.
Davion Mitchell takes those away more than 50% of the time, and he did it tonight more than 50% of the time. The problem is the team defense just isn't there to back everything up.
Charlie says you could cut IT's left hand off and he'd be a better point guard than Davion.
Well, unfortunately, Charlie, that one I don't agree with, but
yeah, it's hard to play with. I mean, I've seen guys play with one hand, but it's hard.
Especially when your dominant hand is the one getting cut off.
Yeah.
And Charlie is such a fan of everybody's off hand.
Yeah, if it's Tyrese Halliburton, that's another story, right? That's funny. So what do you see from HB tonight? I want to kind of go back to this because it just seems like every other game we praise him, then we're like, where was he at? Praise him, where was he at again? Only 8 shots tonight. I mean, it makes sense when your best player has 31 shots, right?
That's the thing. That's the key.
But it's like HB needs to get some more reps, dude. He just needs it. Like, I love the game Fox had tonight. I really do. 44 points, tied a career high. Like, great game. He was pretty efficient. 18 for 31 is far above 50%.
It's better than 50%, absolutely.
But I feel like there's a component where if you don't get your teammates involved and you just take all the shots yourself, that it just kind of throws off the whole rhythm of the team. And then when you do need him, like at the end of the game, HB gets the last shot and he only took 8 shots in the game. That was only his 3rd three-pointer of the game, and he hadn't had the ball for a minute before then. I just feel like it kind of throws off the rhythm.
Absolutely. I mean, that's totally 100% it to me. The reason that Harrison Barnes wasn't more aggressive or you didn't see him putting up shots is because De'Aaron Fox was taking them all. I mean, it's the same thing for Sabonis. Like they need to run offense through the whole team more. They can't. De'Aaron had a great game, but the execution late in game, in a close game, they have to run more sets. Like they can't just say the game's in your hands, man. Like that they need more production out of their supporting cast in order to win games, because they're such a bad team defensively that they're gonna allow points. So when Harrison Barnes disappears on nights like this, it's totally because they're giving the ball to Fox and saying, this is your game, we're getting out of your way. Mm-hmm. And Harrison is he's not a give me the ball type guy, right? Like he's going to play within the offense, take shots, open shots when he gets them, unless they're running plays through him, like in the low post, or if it's coming off of a screen, they get him the ball on the perimeter and he looks to drive and get to the basket or get to the foul line. But when you're in the second half of a tight game and De'Aaron's feeling it and everybody is just spread out to try to give him a lane to the basket, there's no movement, and as a result, you have guys like this who just can't seem to find shots for themselves.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what we've been talking about is if your best player can't shoot the three, I know De'Aaron Fox has made threes. Yes, he has. But I'm talking about late game situation. Who's getting the last shot of the game? It's not De'Aaron Fox, right? If it was maybe a mid-range or they needed two, he'd probably get the shot. But needing three, he's not getting the shot. We saw, like a Metu game winner this season, a couple other ones. These are all balls that were passed out by De'Aaron Fox when he drove inside.
Yep.
So if you're going to be getting all the shots and you get your own rhythm, but then you can't make the three at the end of the game and you're dishing it off to somebody that has sat half the game or who hasn't got very many shots, it doesn't really set your team up for success. It really doesn't. Micah says, the thing about the Kings right now is if Harrison doesn't go for 20 plus, we lose. And he doesn't score 20 plus all the time.
That's true. I mean, they should have won this game without him scoring 20 points anyway. So,
yeah,
it's not no Kings loss is ever on one guy. They're just too bad of a team defensively and offensively overall. I mean, not that they don't have good offensive players or individual talent, but they're, we're talking about late game execution, all this stuff. You have your best player is a guy that you don't really rely on for an outside shot, yet he put up a bunch of them tonight because he was hot and he was feeling himself. So there's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah, I'm looking at Justin Holiday here. 4 of 12 from the field, 1 of 7 from three-point range. And not to mention, I'm just going to say it again, he left him wide open in the corner. But, 9 points for him tonight, 9 points for Harrison Barnes. Both of these guys are starters. I know we've seen games this season where Mo Harkless has started. Speaking of which, he didn't play again in this game. Yep. We've seen games where Mo Harkless has started and put up 0 points or 3 points. The Kings usually lose those games. They need a little bit more production out of the bench, or maybe they can deal with the lack of production if the shooting percentage is there. But when your starting shooting guard is 1 of 7 from three-point range and he's shooting 30%, and then, your top shooting guard coming off the bench is also shooting 30% in DiVincenzo, that really makes it hard on the rest of your team.
Definitely. I mean, it's really a glaring hole when that's what they're relying or counting on these guys for on offense, is outside shooting. And DiVincenzo did shoot 3 of 6 today, but I think a few of those, or multiple of them, 2 of them came in the first half, and he had 1 make in the second half, I want to say.
Yeah, and a couple air balls.
It's just hard, when that's what you're in there for on offense. You aren't going to see them take any other shots unless it's off of an offensive rebound. You're right underneath the rim for a putback. These guys are out there to take threes, and when you brick them as much as they have been, it hurts. It really does.
Well, we heard the quote from DiVincenzo early on, right, where he joined the team, and he said to the coach, do you like me shooting those shots? Yeah. And Alvin said, well, were you open?
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, we're all kind of like, oh, whatever, he's new on the team. We like his defense. Yes, he was open. Take those shots. Is it the same for you at this point, or has it changed a little bit where it's like, okay, well, how much of this is DiVincenzo and how much is this coach enabling him or saying, hey, no, I don't want you shooting that shot. I want you running around screens. I want you moving. I want you open at the three-point line shooting those shots. I want you to pass out of these far looks that you get. There's a reason he's open 6 feet behind the three-point line, right? There's a reason.
Most people are open 6 feet
behind. Yeah. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's a tough call for me to make just because I don't have access to the coaching staff or the players. Like, I don't know how much of it is Alvin Gentry telling him, hey, that's okay. Like, I like those shots. Keep shooting them, all this stuff. I mean, I'm sure he is saying that to some degree, right?
Because he's not saying the opposite. He's not telling him that those are bad shots. Yeah, he's not yelling at him like we've seen guys yell at Buddy Hield.
No, that's true. I mean, maybe he just hasn't been on the team long enough. And I don't think DiVincenzo's had a game where he attempted like 13 or 14 threes yet. But he did that on a routine basis. So it's just tough, man. Like, the Kings we've talked about it before, they are a much better team when they're hitting their outside shot, just like a lot of teams are in the NBA. But the Kings, it's so much more important, right? Because they're not a good defensive team, and they sometimes struggle to score. So anytime you can get solid shooting performances, it totally changes the complexity of the game for you. So, I don't know how much it is of DiVincenzo's just trying to put up those shots on his own, or Coach Gentry is telling him, keep shooting, something like that. But that's what they need those guys to do. Justin Holiday and DiVincenzo and Jeremy Lamb, they're out there to knock down outside shots. I mean, they're out there to play defense also, but on offense, that's what they're out there for.
How are you feeling about the coaching staff just in general, as far as everything that's going? Are you happy with these rotations? Are you happy with the minutes everyone's getting? They've stuck with the same starting lineup here for a few games now, which we talked about consistency. If you were to replace Alvin Gentry with another coach, does it add a couple more wins in this last part of the season? Or are you just what it is at this point?
I mean, yeah, it is what it is at this point. Like, that's another point that I've tried to make already, just in that, Alvin Gentry is an interim coach. That's what you're going to get. And as far as the rotations go, I do think that people are putting a little bit too much blame on the coaching staff, because when you have a roster that turns over as much as it does, like, your rotations are obviously going to change. And then you throw in the fact that Rashawn Holmes has been out a lot. They've dealt with some injury issues. So, consistency in your rotations and your starting lineup is good and all, but I don't think that the Kings coaching staff has really been in a good position for that all season long, starting from day one. I don't know. I don't think you're going to get anything different. And to come down this stretch with all these new players going into a really important offseason, it makes total sense that those guys are going to get the Lions' share of the minutes. Like, you have to figure out what you're doing with this team in the offseason. So I don't think there's really too much else rotation-wise that the Kings can do at this point. Because what's the point now of saying, all right, Metu, we're going to go back to you as the starting four for the rest of the season? What does that really do for you?
They just need time to play together. They need time to get some chemistry. The coaching staff needs time to evaluate these players and put them in the right position. I think that's really hard to do in the middle of a season, especially when every game matters right now as much as it does, because it's like you want to experiment with the roster and try some of these other guys, but at the same time, like, you want to stick to the guys that you know and you trust, because you're trying to get every single win that you can.
What's really hard for them right now is when they don't have Barnes, Sabonis, or Fox on the floor at the same time, they got nothing, man. Yeah. Like, all these guys, Davion has really, performed poorly on offense lately. The people that need to be stepping up, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, just aren't. So when those guys aren't in the game, the Kings are really behind the eight ball.
Yep. Well, we got Skip here is joining us here in a second, but before we go there real quick, Calvin, Bruce wants to know if there's any player the Kings could trade for this offseason that would make them a playoff contender. I'm just going to throw one guy out there. That's John Collins.
I think there's multiple people they could trade for that would make them a playoff contender. The question is, can you get that deal done? I mean, the answer to that question I don't have. But there's a bunch of people. John Collins would be in that group for me. If they were somehow able to pull off a Bradley Beal or a Donovan Mitchell type deal, I mean, there's definitely players out there that are going to make your team playoff worthy.
Yeah.
question is, can they get it done?
They got options, which is good. It's always good to have options. Yeah. It is always good to have options.
And real quick, I also want, because I saw this question asked twice here. I think it's Rico.
Okay.
He's talking about Justin James, saying should the Kings have kept him because he finished the season pretty strong. In my opinion, Justin James doesn't make any difference for this team.
Yeah, he doesn't make a difference at all. I don't know about you, but he doesn't make a difference at all for me. I like Justin James a lot. He's a young guy. He's got potential, but you need guys that have been in the moment that are ready to do it right now. Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that super chat. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break here, and when we return, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your Sacramento Kings with Around the Crown.